Well, hey, leaders, I thought I would jump on Instagram tonight, and my good friend Sam Collier is going to join us in just a few minutes. But like you, I've been really heartbroken and super challenged to see what's going on in the world. And my heart breaks for African American friends, for other friends who don't share my particular skin color or background, and I thought I'd have a really good conversation. So my friend Sam Collier, I'm pulling off my glasses so that I can actually see what's going on here. Strangely, I don't need reading glasses. I need glasses for seeing far. But Sam's going to join. We were just texting, and Sam's been a friend for a long, long time, and I'm really great. I got a bug on my face because I just got back from a bike ride. So you know how that goes. But Sam, hey man, if you're on yet, let me know. And I just love learning from friends. So I see a whole lot of you jumping on. Tammy, I saw you jump on. Sarah, thank you for joining. Ted, it's good to see you. There's Sam Collier. Hey, Sam Collier, how about that? Why don't we add you to... Okay, Sam. Hey, brother.
Hey man, can you hear me?
I can hear you great. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, you look great.
So good to see you, buddy. It really is, man. Oh, thank you so much. I'm so glad we met. What was it, 5, 6 years ago? You and
Yeah,
me on the way to
yeah.
Dallas
On the way to
from
Dallas.
Austin. Before you were Sam Collier, I knew
No,
you.
I know.
And
No,
I know we joke around a lot, but
you helped make me. That's what it was.
oh, come on. It's been a tough time. I just feel for you. I feel for your country. You know, I'm in Canada. I'm actually a U.S. resident,
Yeah,
technically. Have my green card, and my wife's an American citizen. So we're watching with just broken hearts and watching what's happening across America. And
yeah,
Sam, I just really for today on Blackout Tuesday, and we set this up long before I knew anything about Blackout Tuesday. So
yeah.
when did that pop up? Was that something that came up yesterday or
I don't even really know.
no?
It came up. I got up this morning, saw one of my black friends, celebrities talk. I was like, all right, blackout, boom. And
Hey,
then pastors, and then it just took off. It's interesting because, and I just want to, because I know a lot of people have maybe been hearing different things from different leaders about the meaning of Blackout Tuesday, how to do it, who not to post. And,
yeah.
I just want to say, I think during this time, the fact that you just post at all, just, it's a great boycott moment. It's a moment to bring awareness to what we're doing. And I think we're just, we're excited that everybody's involved. So I
Well,
think at the end of the day, it made impact.
so really transparent. I'm sitting outside on my back deck and I'm going through Instagram first thing in the morning. And I have a friend who's very influential in my life, a guy named Sam Collier. I don't know whether you know that, but you came up on my feed, dude. It's like Blackout Tuesday. And I'm like, okay. And then I did a quick Google and like I followed your lead. I'm like, I'm with you, man. I'm with you. So let
Right?
me, I mean, we did not script this. I didn't send you questions ahead of time. We've known
Yeah.
each other a lot. Every time we have a conversation, it's fantastic. But I'm just going to speak my mind and you coach me through this. I, as a white guy, all right, and I'm sort of at the target, a white guy in my 50s who has had a very different experience than you have growing up. Can I just say one of the things, and I'm afraid of making a mistake. I'm afraid of saying the
Yeah.
wrong thing. I'm afraid of like posting with the wrong hashtag. I'm afraid, and I want to support you. We are all in this, together. Can you talk to those of us who are just saying, man, I want to do the right thing, but I don't even know what the right thing is right now?
Yeah, I would give you the same advice I had to give myself in the mirror several times over these last couple of days. And it
What's
is,
that?
don't worry about the far left or the far right.
Hmm.
It focus on the middle and and promoting and doing your best to make a difference. Because and the reason I say that is because, during this time, um, nobody, not everybody's going to agree with you, and
Right.
I'll just be honest with me, it's just, they're going to be, even the black community, some of us disagree on how to go about it. We all have the same goal, 100% the same goal, that we need to eradicate racism in this country, that there's a problem with the justice system, and we need to make it, But even for us, I mean, we disagree. And I think if you've been on social media, you can even see black people talking, hey, no, you need to say it this way or don't say this. And, and it's the same thing on the white side, and so for me, I get hit on both sides. It's, I got white
Well,
people.
you and I have been texting the last few days, and you're like, I'm getting pummeled like from my friends because
Oh
you're.
yeah, I mean, I'm getting hit from the left. I'm getting hit from the right. The white people think I'm saying too much. Black people don't think I'm saying, And here's the deal. And today was a great day. Everybody posts about blackout, but everybody had a different opinion about how it was supposed to happen, or so on and so forth. So the advice I had to tell myself is this. I mean, you do your best, obviously, to say something that resonates and to say something that matters and goes through the proper checks and balances. You have to do that. I'm not saying operate just as a rogue. Hey, I know everything, I'm going to post. No, send some out to your black friends. Hey, is this appropriate? Should I say this? Should I do this? On the same, on both sides, I do the same thing. I text my black friends, hey, is this good? I text my white friends, do you understand what I'm saying here?
Mm-hmm.
At the end of the day, though, I have to talk to God and go, hey, God, I know you want me to say something. So you tell me what you want me to say, and I'm going to say it. And as I have done that, I feel like, the people that are in the middle that are going, listen, we want to do this with the heart of Christ, and we want to defeat this thing, have all showed me love. And I've actually jumped in followers, and I thought I was going to lose. I thought it was over.
Well,
like,
a few people, like our friend Rich Wilkerson, he's taken quite a beating on social media, and there's some others who have stood up and said, no, I'm in this struggle with my brothers and sisters, and they've really gotten beat up from what I understand.
Yeah. And the overarching principle that I would give to everyone, blacks and whites, is the history of this country is messy. Mm-hmm. And so the process to getting us out of this is going to be messy. And so I think we have to be okay with the mess, but keep pushing forward. Don't give up. I had a conversation with Andy. We spent a lot of time with me and Andy's family. Especially, he sends out a lot of messages. He tried really.
No, Andy has been trying. You and I've talked about that. Andy's talked about that. Like, he kind of said, hey, would you just advise me? Right? Like, and you do. You guys have had a relationship for years because he's trying to make a difference.
Yeah, and he posted something a couple of days ago and got slaughtered on Twitter. Yeah. Got slaughtered on Instagram, and he pulled it down. And you had people, and he really did. I mean, he did his best. I mean, I read the post. If you were reading into it, you could see something. You could find something wrong. But after the post, he was down the whole day. He was just like, man, I've tried and I'm really trying, and he's learning. So, I mean, I'm not saying get it right. But today we got up and I said, all right, it's Blackout Tuesday, Andy. We had a beating a couple days ago. Let's get back in the fight. And that's my thing. Don't get out of the fight. No one person, and this is probably true for everyone, the far left and the far right. Nobody's going to agree with everything you say. Especially
it's true on a good day. In normal conditions, Sam. Normal conditions. I can't get agreement in my house. I don't know about you sometimes.
Right. No,
I'm shocked.
It is what it is. You just got to know, I'm going to post about this and I'm going to get hit a lot of different ways. Yeah. But the question is do I care? And do I want to be a part of the solution? And if you're doing that, you keep posting. And you take your times to read and go, hey, did I get it wrong? And that's what I do. Every time, if I get hit, I take it and I go, okay, now is there something here that I need to learn? Is there something here that I missed? And I run it through my filters. I talk to my friends. I talk to my trusted advisors and my leaders. And if they say it's okay, and I just keep rocking. And I keep learning, and the next time I get better. But I've made a decision that I'm not gonna stop fighting for what's right the way that I feel God has called me to do it.
And I think that you've been very helpful to me. I ran a couple of things I posted on social over the weekend by you. I'm like, is this the right wording? What do you think, Sam? Like, I really trust you. I trust your friendship, your judgment, and you helped me a lot. But, come to think of it, I do that. You know, most posts I don't run by a whole lot of people, but if I've got a really
Yeah.
sensitive subject, I did one on reopening the church. I've done one on same-sex relationships. I've done them on suicide and leadership, you know, things that are just a little more touchy. And I will often run those by 2, 3, sometimes 8, 10 people. I'm like, what are
Yeah.
you hearing? Because what's in my head doesn't always translate to my fingertips or to, you know, to what's posted. Sam, one of the things that I would love for you to talk about, because I mean, we only know our own skin, right? Like I know
Right.
growing up in Canada, which is different than growing up in the US. It's not that we don't have racism here, but it is, I think, different. Having spent a lot of time on both sides of the border, and it's still a problem here. But what has been new to me is to understand how different it is to
Yeah.
grow up black and just the whole. And I want you to. I remember, I think you were on that trip. We were sitting in a restaurant in Dallas, and Joseph Sojourner was there. I'm pretty sure we were there, I think, with Clay Scroggins,
Okay.
and it was Orange Tour. And somehow race came up. This is like 4 or 5 years ago. And tell me, maybe you weren't there. I don't know. But Sojo leaned over and he goes, look around the restaurant, Nieuwhof. We're in Dallas. I'm looking around. He goes, we're the only black people here. And I'm
Yeah.
like, gosh, I didn't see that.
Mhm.
And I mean, he's absolutely right. But I'm there with my friends. Do you know what I mean? And you think about, like, I listened to Priscilla Schreier put on a conversation with her dad and his grandkids about how to behave when you get pulled over by the cops. And that was like eye-opening for me. Because we're all nervous when we get pulled over by the cops, right? But it's
Yeah.
very different. So can you walk us through just a couple of things that I might be blind to, that others might be blind to? It's like, no, this is like a real thing.
Wow. Um, yes.
Hmm.
I I think that what we're dealing with specifically this week and for the past couple of weeks is a broken relationship between law enforcement and people of color.
Yeah.
And it's been broken for a long time. The origin of the police system came out of slavery. And so many
I
people
did
will
not know
say,
that. Really?
yeah. And you can take time to look it up. You know, some folks, if you're out there, the first police that we had in America were called slave. They were basically like slave catchers. And so the idea of police would be that they would, you know, for all intents and purposes, uh, steward or I don't even want to use the word because it's not protect, wrangle black people. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
Discipline black people so that they didn't get too out of line. And so, and when you think about the history of this country, you know, we have 400 years of slavery. We out of that, you know, we go on to what we, you know, what's a better day where we're segregated, but we're not enslaved anymore. We go out of segregation, we move into integration. You know, and what's interesting is that, you know, Dr. King, towards the end of his life, he said, I don't know, I'm starting to believe that maybe I led my people into another prison, which is just crazy. And but what he was talking about was this idea of integration, because they were there, and I'm not gonna go too long on that, but he was essentially talking about now we've integrated into this white system that has where the hearts haven't changed, but the laws have changed. And
Hmm.
so now we go from living two separate lives where the black community has its own economy, it has its own thing, it's building its own stuff. And so then you integrate, and now it's like now we're kind of working with each other, but we're with the people that were oppressing us. And so anyway, I say all that to say, as we have gone through the ranks, law enforcement and the history of it, it has a very deep racist history within law enforcement. Even when you talk about, you know, when you when you think about the 60s, the reason that change was created in America in terms of laws, as in voting and as in desegregation of buses and all of that, was because Dr. King led black people into an ambush, if you will. He said, hey, here's the deal. We're going to protest these wrongs, right? We're going to, and police put dogs on them and they beat them, and it's where we get the phrase Bloody Sunday from. If you get a chance, Google Bloody Sunday, where they're marching across, in Selma, the Edmund Pettus Bridge, and it's blood on the ground. And here's the deal: that's at the hands of officers from Black people protesting for the country to be better. And so then you jump out of that into where we are now, and what you have is a justice system that still has remnants of racism within it. And so I want to be clear and say there is not all officers are racist, obviously, because some of my cousins officers, we got Black officers, we got, but there was even once a time when Black officers couldn't get dressed in the same room as white officers. I mean, it's just, I mean, when you start to really get into this, and so I say all that to say, what does it mean to grow up Black in America, specifically towards what law enforcement? It means that you will experience you will have a negative experience with law enforcement at some point, just because of the color of your skin. And there may be people that don't believe that. There may be people that doubt that. There may be people that goes, no, how could that be? It's not this, it's that. But I think where America has gotten and where Black America has gotten in this country, while I don't, and Dr. King didn't agree with violence or riots, we know that it was nonviolence. But at the same time, Dr. King always talked about the reason that it was happening. And it's happening because Black people are going, hey, cops are treating us badly. Say something, do something.
Yeah,
believe us.
yeah.
And they're like, stop doubting us. And then it's like, okay, well, you go, okay, I got to burn a car. Somebody.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and I think we all know good cops. I mean, my neighbor, TJ, he's a cop, fantastic guy. And we actually have a lot of police officers around where I live, and they're great. But you're right. You've got that percentage of, and you have that, it's not like every pastor is a great pastor. You know that, Sam. It's not like, you get that. And knowing the racist background and knowing the history really helps with that.
Yeah.
I'm a firm believer in what I call invisible scripts, that there are unwritten laws. So you have the law, but then you also have beliefs about what you can accomplish. So, if you were born third generation poor and you watch your grandfather and your father sort of try to scrounge a living and they couldn't do it, you probably think you're never going to make much of yourself in life. I would love to know from your perspective, what were some invisible scripts? What were some beliefs that you were conditioned to believe about yourself because you're African American that you've had to push through to be able to become what God has intended you to be? Or what invisible scripts are there in the culture about how far you can go?
Wow. Wow. Yeah. I would say, I tell everybody, I did a radio interview on a mainstream pop station a couple of days ago, which was wild. I was like, okay, I don't know how, and they asked me about, my history. What did your mom, there was a Black guy on there that brought a question. He said, how do I raise my son in this? What would you say to your son about what's happening now if I'm Black? How do you raise me? And I said, I mean, the only thing I know to say is how my parents raised me. And it was, you're going to have to work twice as hard because of the color of your skin. It was always, you have to be way smarter than everyone else in the room just to even the playing field. It was, when you get pulled over by law enforcement, when you get pulled over by cops, you better keep your hands at 1 and 2. What is it? 12 and 10 and 2.
10 and 2 on the steering wheel.
10 and 2. Do not move. Be extremely respectful. Don't say anything crazy because it can go sideways at any time. So we were taught to fear law enforcement. And this is a sidebar, but as I spend time talking to my white brothers and sisters who are seeking to understand, what the disconnect is, and I've had this conversation with a lot of white leaders. I say, hold on, before we go forward, I said, let's let's create a foundation. Black people have a view of law enforcement that they have to protect themselves from law enforcement. White people in America have a view that law enforcement is going to protect them. I said, so we got to just, we have to
Yeah.
just start that. And that's why we miss each other, because when I'm talking to my white leaders and they're going, how could you think it's like, how could you say this was race motivated? How could you move there so fast? And I say, well, we're seeing the glass half empty. You're seeing it half full. And that's why it's been so difficult, I believe, to get white and black people on the same page about this issue. By the grace of God, I feel as if we're in a defining moment right now, to where I think we're the closest to where we've ever been in this country of getting on the same page about the ills of the world that we have to work through. And what I'm encouraged by is that officers are speaking out about it. White people are speaking out about it. Black people are speaking out. I mean, we've never had officers speak out. Not like,
Right.
I mean, I had a lieutenant, a sergeant, a captain from one of the largest counties here in Georgia, white guy, speak out and say, if you watch the video of George Floyd as an officer and you don't see anything wrong with it, you need to turn in your badge. And so it's so that is the light, at the end of the tunnel for me. That's the silver lining for me. I hate that we had to get to this condition for us to get here, but I'm grateful that we are here, and that we're moving forward. I want to give you a quote, and then I'm gonna let you talk.
I'll let you talk all night, Sam.
Okay. I talked to one of the King family members about Martin Luther King's family. I talked to her about, I said, what's your perspective on what's going on? And obviously she believes Kenyan nonviolence and all these other things, but she quoted Dr. King, and she said, the moral arc of the universe is long, but it bends towards justice. And then she said, and what we are witnessing now is the bending.
Well, that was one of the questions. That's where I was going to go next, because I know you're close to the King family. Yeah. And obviously, you never knew Martin Luther King Jr. It's interesting. I was speaking with Gordon MacDonald earlier today, something that will air much later this year. And I asked him what it was like to be in the 1960s under Dr. King's leadership. And it's really interesting because you look back and you see, and I won't put words in Gordon MacDonald's mouth, but you look back and you see him as a hero. But there were a lot of things said about King at the time that were very divisive. And it's really in retrospect that he was kind of lifted up. He was seen as a hero by many, but there were others who thought he was a communist. There were others who thought he was an agitator, et cetera, et cetera. And, one of the great legacies I think he brought was nonviolence. And that in the end, his preaching and his nonviolence really won the day and bent the moral arc of the universe, so to speak. What are you learning from the King family about this moment, or about how to even approach a moment like this?
Wow. I think, the newest thing, and then I'll jump into the things that they've taught me up until this moment. The newest thing that I've learned, that I've really been leaning into is empathy first, as it pertains to those that are committing violent acts in the name of justice to get there. Wow. That's
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Breaking up a little bit, but we're tracking.
Am I back?
Okay, I think we're back. I think we're back with Sam. We had a little bit of breakup there, Sam, but here we go.
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Okay.
Yep, I can hear you now, Sam.
Okay. What I was saying was, I I said, let's just be real. The majority of the white community is going, yeah, we get it. We're in. We need to end this. But can y'all stop rioting? You're right. And then on the other side, that's where the white community is. And then on the black side, they're going, yeah, but do you know why they rioted? But do you know why they rioted? I mean, that's the cry from both sides. Can y'all stop rioting? The other side, do you know why they rioted? You know?
Yeah.
And so for me, when I looked up Dr. King and the riots, he was in an interview, and the interviewer asked him, he asked him, what's your perspective on criticism? Because at the time he was getting criticized by a ton of black leaders on his nonviolent stance, calling him Uncle Tom, calling him, butt kisser, white butt kisser. I mean, and he said, I very well understand that I'm getting these criticisms. He said, but I am committed to nonviolence. And he said, and as I look forward, because the reporter asked him, well, when do you think this is going to stop? How do you think this is going to? He said, well, I mean, he said, I would hope, he said, I think it's going to stop when we get some change. He said, but I would hope that the riots wouldn't continue. He said, because we don't necessarily believe that is the best strategy. He said, but I do understand. He said, I do understand why the riots are happening. And it should pierce the heart of America and of white Americans and of all Americans that a people group has gotten to the point to where they feel so unheard. They feel like they need to burn up cars. Yeah. And they feel like they need to run. And so I think that was the biggest thing for me, because I think being an avid follower of Dr. King, my first response is, guys, no, right? Like, let's not riot. We're giving them permission to harm us now. And I had to stop when I studied Dr. King, and I said, it is possible to not be for violence and for riots and have empathy for those that feel they have to. So I
think, Sam, what got me, and I wanted to see if we lost anything when the sound broke up a little bit, but what got me, and listen, you come to my house, which you've never been to, but you will one day. You and Tony will come up and hang out with Tony and I. But, I take care of everything. Trust me. I'm the maintenance guy, okay? There's like not a blade of grass out of place. But I'm like, when you're more concerned about the destruction of property than you are the destruction of lives, there's a problem. There's a problem. And I don't like the destruction of property at all. But I'm looking at that going, wow, there's been the destruction and oppression of so many lives. And that's kind of just coming out. Anything we might have missed, Sam, on what you were saying about Dr. King, I think we caught most of it, but it was on empathy. You have to show empathy for people that you disagree with.
Yeah. I think that was the biggest lesson is when you see the riots, especially when it's connected to a social issue or people crying out, you ask the question, why is this happening? And again, it's and I want to be clear, we're not condoning riots.
No, I'd be the last guy.
But what we are saying is if you and I think Bernice said, if you condemn the riots but you don't know why they're rioting, you got a problem. And so and so that's what I was saying. I think the second thing that I've learned, from the King family is that when you're approaching issues like this, there's a principle that Dr. King said, and he said that the universe is on the side of justice. The universe is on the side of justice. And what he talks about there, when you read his book, From Where Do We Go From Here, Chaos or Community, he talks about also the idea that, here it is, we have a cosmic companion. We have a cosmic companion. And he's talking about God. That's what he's talking about. But he wrote it in a way to where if you weren't a believer, you could identify with, with what he was saying. And within that, he talked about us having, that's the last principle of Kingian nonviolence, because what he's saying is this, and this is the challenging part for all of us, is that we have to let God invade these spaces. We have to let God fight our battles with us. That does not mean that we don't bring light to the battle. But he was saying if we sow a seed that is alternative to the outcome that we want, it's very difficult for God to do what he needs to do because the seed is wrong. And so, within that, that's the reason why Dr. King always was about nonviolence. It wasn't that he didn't want to shoot nobody. He did. He wasn't because he didn't want to burn a car. He definitely wanted to burn a car. It's not that he didn't want to fight. They slept when he was in Montgomery. He walked in Montgomery into a building and the man punched him in the face and said, "Oh, you Dr. King?" And punched him. And listen to what he did. He got up and turned the other cheek. And that's a passage.
It takes so much strength. Oh my goodness.
No, it's strength. And many people will say nonviolence is not courageous. Nonviolence is not strong. Nonviolence, no, but it's harder. It's harder to take a punch than it is to throw one. And so I'm not saying, again, I'm not condemning the rioters. We just talked about it. We know why. I think what I've learned, though, is, you have the alternative side to that is also you have to be nonviolent, but you have to be committed to speaking truth to power. And see, that's what people miss it. And that's why nonviolence doesn't work for everybody, and that's why people haven't seen the fruit of it, because they're just being peaceful, but they're not speaking truth to power. Speaking truth to power means protesting. Speaking truth to power means flooding the streets. Speaking truth to power means blackout day. Speaking truth to power means I'm going to say some things and get hit from all sides, but I'm going to say it because it's right. That's what speaking to. And so the combination of the two, when you do it, it allows for God to intervene in a greater way. And it always allows for the part of the betrayer to be pierced, because now you got to deal with this truth that I just gave you. And I think that's what we're seeing happen in this country right now. We are seeing, God leverage even the riots to bring about awareness so that truth can be spoken to power, and so that nonviolence and love can lead the way. So that's the second thing. So we talked about this idea of empathy, nonviolence, and the last thing I want to give is this. We have to, and this is where I'm moving. And Carey, I want to share something with you. I love just to drop it, and it'll land with you. The last thing I'm learning, we got to have a strategy and we got to have a goal. And I don't know that we've gotten to a goal yet.
I was going to say, what would you say the goal is? And by the way, hi to Tony Collier, who's on this right now. So your sweet wife. Hey, Tony.
Love my wife. Love her wife.
She's great. Yeah. So does my Tony. Love your Tony. So that's awesome. What would you, because you had hinted at that earlier. I was wondering, what is the goal? What would some things, obviously being treated equally under the law, not just being legally the same, but being treated as though you're the same. So that when you get pulled over by a cop, it's the exact same dynamic as when I get pulled over. When you get served at a restaurant, it's the exact same dynamic as if I was to go in there. And as Dr. King said, you're judged by the quality of your character, not the color of your skin. That might be a goal. What are some other potential goals or things you would love to see?
Yeah, this is going to be a big goal, but I think it kind of sums it up. I think specifically to this issue, I think what we need is a complete reform of the justice system in America, because the foundation of it was built on racist ideology when we go back. And I think we have to, so there are systems in place. Here's the deal and here's why it's so hard to have a solution, Carey, because it's so deep. And when I say deep, I'm talking about systematic. So this is one of the reasons why Trayvon Martin or whoever, or any can get shot, can be Eric Garner. We're talking about specifically George Floyd. And he gets arrested, he gets charged, goes to court, and we lose at court. And so now, and we lose at court because they're like, right now in Georgia, there is no hate crime bill. in Georgia. Listen to Carey, out of 50 states, there are 4 states with no hate crime bill, and Georgia is one of them.
Georgia is one of them. Where you live. Wow.
Where I live. And so when you talk about run with Ahmaud, you right? Ahmaud, who got, Ahmaud Arbery, well, he's getting tried in Georgia. Well, I mean, his case is being tried in Georgia. And so, now hope, we're going down to the courthouse. We're trying to get this bill passed so that we can get a hate crime law so that it'll be easier to prosecute. Because here's the deal, Carey, if you don't have that law in place, and you know this as a lawyer, then you can find loopholes. And because the justice system is set up to be fair by the law, right? It's not about your opinion. It's not about what you like. It's not about what you think they should do. It's can you prove it, right? I mean,
And there are all kinds of technicalities and all kinds of, the video was grainy. Well, we couldn't see this. No, you're right. You're right. And it has to get to intent, and people will deny intent, right? The difference between manslaughter and murder is intent. Criminal intent, mens rea. It's a legal document. And how do you prove intent, right? So you have to shift the burden in law. That's why, like, speeding is a strict liability offense. It's not like I didn't intend to speed. It's like, well, the speed gun says you were doing, 100 miles an hour in a 60 zone. Yes. This was calibrated this morning. It doesn't lie. So the presumption is, unless there's some fantastic explanation, like it's strict liability offense. So I get that completely. And Sam, I would love to ask you, because I know you got a bunch of interviews tonight. So thank you. Thank you for taking the time, friend.
Anytime for you. We need to have
we
need to do this
talk
again.
To me.
Yeah.
What can I do? What can people like me, people who are not Black, people who are not Latino, Hispanic, people who are me, like white guy, Canada, what can we do to help?
I do think the biggest thing that people can do now, I could go on for hours on this, but one of the things that you can do is what you've already been doing, Carey, and that is, you've invested in a young Black man, and that's me. I mean, you've put me on platform, and not only me, you've had other Black leaders on your show, and we know that your show goes out to millions. And that's one simple thing that you've done. You have so many leaders that listen, and what you've done is you've raised our profile. And when you raise our profile, it counters the system that we're in. I told everybody this, and people are not going to, this is true. The more money I make, Carey, and the bigger my brand is, and where I move and where I live, my experience with law enforcement isn't the same. It changes.
The nicer your vehicle, the nicer your clothing.
It changes the more money I make.
Oh, man.
Now, it doesn't mean I don't get bad treatment, because I do, but I don't get shot. But it's because I'm in Alpharetta, driving this car, wearing my glasses, right? I'm in Alpharetta right now. This is where North Point is, right? And so because you've helped me raise my profile, I'm able to stand on bigger stages. Where the police chief is, he sees me driving down the street, he knows me, right? I mean, so I'm not saying
that's Sam Collier. He's a good guy.
That's Sam.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, it would be bad of me to say that this problem just isn't doesn't have socioeconomic implications, because it does.
It does. There's a lot of stuff that has socioeconomic origins and implications, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, when we look at all these cases, most of the people being shot are in poor areas, and so where the policing is harder, it's crazier, and which is why we're voice, because they don't have a voice. And so I think that's one of the things, just helping people of color advance, helping them. That's one. I think two, speaking out like you are. Carey, and I say it again, people like to say speaking out isn't anything, and it's so much, especially when it's just so much on any level, whether you have 100 followers, whether you have 1 million, because here's the deal, and this is a whole nother issue for another time, but because the history of this country has primarily been come out of racist, white people, white America, right? Most of the people that are in power are white. When we talk about the highest level, they're white. So if you're white and you got 100 followers, 9 times out of 10, one of those followers controls something really big.
Mm-hmm.
9 times out of 10. So when you post about it and they follow you and they love you, they're going, maybe I need to think about it. See, and
You're right.
you got me on the road, Carey. I'm gonna say this and I'm done, and I'll end it here. And then obviously, I think, let me say this. I'm gonna jump back to that, to relationships. I'm gonna jump right back.
Yeah. And I got one more question for you. We can answer it quickly.
Okay.
You keep going. You keep rolling. Keep rolling.
Okay. Obviously, helping to get laws changes, helping to get these bills passed. I'm going down to the Capitol soon to help get the law passed. Donating to organizations that are fighting, like Equal Justice Initiative and all of that. But I'm gonna go back to relationships of why raising your voice is so important and speaking to the people and influencing those that are in power. The reason that we were able to get the laws passed in the 60s with voting and buses and lunch counters and businesses is because there was some riots, but there was also peaceful demonstration. Obviously there was Bloody Sunday and all of that. Well, what that did was it created a door for Dr. King to go sit with the president, who was white at the time.
Yeah.
And it was listen, this is so important. And I'm just getting excited. It was in that room that the laws were changed. It was the one-on-one relationship with the most powerful man in the universe.
Yes, and there are white evangelicals who have that kind of access even in this moment.
Yes, and they probably follow you on Instagram.
That may be true. That may be true.
So, speaking out is so big.
Sam, here's a question for you, and these are extraordinary circumstances, and we're in a moment right now. But I got a number of emails over the weekend saying, why aren't you speaking out on this or writing on it? Part of it is I think I'm better in interviews because it's not my experience, but I love having conversations. And I went back into my archive because obviously I've had a number of African Americans, on my show regularly. And one of the things that I don't want to quote it because I can't be 100% sure who told me this, but I'm pretty sure it was a mutual friend who said, Carey, when you have an African American on your show, because I was saying, how do I give voice? How do I make sure? He says, don't always talk about race. Now, there are moments like this where we need to talk about race. But he said, one of the things Black people rarely hear is just, that is a brilliant idea. That was fantastic. And so what I've done, I went back to try to answer some of the people who questioned me about, have you spoken out about this? And I went through the transcripts of some episodes, and I've had numerous African-American guests where we never talked about race because I was trying to elevate their ideas, elevate their platforms. It would be like every time you talk to a woman, it's like, what's it like to be a woman, or every time, right? Any thoughts on that? And these are not normal conditions, but I'm just saying, when you and you'll be on my podcast again this summer, we're doing another interview, and you've been on twice before. I think it was even in one of our last conversations, like race didn't come up once because I was really interested in picking your brain as a friend and a leader. Is that a good idea or a bad idea? I just want to know.
And you're asking if you should talk about race or not when you talk to people of color? That's kind of the question.
We lost you for a second. Can you say it again?
I said you're talking about race, whether or not you talk about race when you have a person of color.
In normal conditions, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I understand why they said it. I totally understand, right? Because you don't want to be typecast as the race guy. Mm-hmm. It is no secret that talking about race in this country, and hopefully this changes, definitely gets you hits, right? As a Black man. When I know there are organizations I don't deal with race on that are predominantly white because I know I'm going to lose influence. There are just some organizations.
See, I never thought about it that way. Oh.
Right. And so because they don't want to talk about it, they're like, I don't want to talk about police, so I have to actually pick my organizations where I talk about it at, because I have to balance it. Because if I have to have organizations where I'm willing to lose it all, and I have some of those, and it's messy, and I have lost a lot in those organizations, but it changed in the end. And then there are organizations where I want to just expand my influence, so I focus on other things. Hopefully that will change. And I think even in this moment that we're in, this thing is changing. I do think, talking about it now, is super big, right? I mean,
Yes, yeah, yeah.
because it's so important. And I think as you go along the way, I think what would be even more powerful than talking to a minority is, you spending some time to talk about it just yourself. Or maybe you have a white guy and y'all talk about race, which would be great. And then I think every now and then you have people that just talk about, that's their platform.
Yeah,
And so you talk to them about it. So Latasha Morrison is
right.
one, right? Propaganda. I talk about it all the time too. So you could, I mean, to me, it's not going to necessarily hurt me, but
No,
I think
that's really, I
it's
hadn't thought
encouraging.
about that, and it didn't occur to me. And again, this is why we have conversations like this, that there are times where strategically you feel like you need to be silent about it. And I just want you to know, Sam, you can talk about whatever you want, whenever you want, when we're together, okay? And you've helped me understand. Yeah, at times I'm like, no, I just want to dig down on your ideas, but I
Which is
also
great.
now see that perhaps avoiding the issue actually does some damage as well. So I'm gonna be more open, and I'm gonna be more sensitive. And I really appreciate it, Sam. You know what I'd love for you to do? I'd love you to pray for the nation. I'd love you to pray for the leaders who are watching tonight. Would you do that as we close?
Yeah, of course. Of course. God, I just thank you for every person who has made a decision to get in the game. No matter where they're coming from or how late they are or how deep they have been or how long they've been doing it, I just want to thank you for everyone that has made the decision to get in the game. Their influence, their voice matters. And for those, there are many that are convicted in this moment of going, man, I should have been saying more and I haven't. God, would you let that conviction not become shame, but become action and a fortitude and a determination to lock arms with brothers and sisters of color to change this country. We know that in the near future, there will be more solutions coming out because you are a God that is faithful. You're not going to let us stay in this place. You're going to move us forward. You've allowed for us to get to this moment so that the moral arc of the universe could bend, so that things could be changed. We're so grateful to be a part of the change. Let us, as solutions come, be just as passionate now as we are now about this issue. Let us be as passionate about getting involved in the solutions, so that we can leverage our voice and our influence to make a difference. Let us feel the weight and the pain of people of color in this moment. Let us lament and let it lead to justice. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. This is the kingdom, my friend. It is. It's coming. It's
It's
coming.
coming.
It's coming, Sam. Hey, I love you, brother. All right. Big hug, big virtual. We're still in lockdown here. I can't even hug other than my wife. Nobody. But
I'll give head bump.
all right, all right. I love you, Sam. We'll talk to you soon. Okay.
All right. Peace.
Thanks, my friend. Bye.